Welcome back, everyone. This week, we're doing a deep dive, really digging into something fundamental about, well, us, about human nature.
That's right. We're looking at what you might call our default setting. This came up powerfully in the pastor's sermon this past week, drawing heavily on biblical history.
Yeah, specifically looking at the book of Judges, particularly the chaotic ending, and asking, why does it seem like things fall apart when we're left to our own devices?
Exactly. The core idea, the mission for our chat today is exploring this factory setting. We seem to have this deep-seated insistence that I am right, always.
And we want to trace how that played out historically, the kind of moral mess it created back then.
And then, importantly, find where the hope comes from. Because, spoiler alert, it does emerge right out of that darkness structurally in the Book of Ruth.
Okay, let's jump right in. The sermon started with this really relatable, almost painfully funny modern story.
Oh, the home care scheduler. Yes.
This person schedules routine home visits, necessary checkups, maybe every 6 months or so.
Standard procedure.
Totally standard. But they constantly face this incredible pushback. Sometimes people get genuinely furious.
Denying they need care, or even that they've ever received it before.
Exactly. Hearing things like, why are you calling me? I've never been wrong in my entire life. I always speak accurately. Can you imagine?
It sounds absurd, but honestly, it's such a perfect microcosm of the larger issue, isn't it?
It really is.
That interaction, frustrating as it must be, it captures this deep, deep human flaw, this self-deception, where we genuinely believe our own perspective is the only accurate one.
Complete. Correct.
Which explains so much, like why advice can feel like an attack.
Precisely. Or criticism, or even just, facts that don't quite fit our narrative. It wounds our pride because it challenges that core belief.
Yeah.
I am right.
So we dig in our heels.
We do. We stubbornly justify our mistakes, rationalize failures. We can't easily tolerate being wrong. It feels existentially threatening somehow.
It's more than just thinking we're right. It feels like we're hardwired to protect that feeling. That's a great way to put it. It's this mechanism of self-kingship. We make ourselves the ultimate authority.
And the sermon pointed out that this whole process, this self-rule hitting its, disastrous peak, is summed up perfectly right at the end of the era of the Judges.
Yes, that final, chilling line. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Now, when you first read there was no king, you might just think, okay, a political power vacuum. Simple enough.
Right, like they just needed a monarch. But the analysis in the sermon, digging into the history, showed it's much, much deeper.
What was the deeper meaning then?
Well, it wasn't that they literally lacked any form of leadership at all times. The real issue was their active refusal to acknowledge the king they already had.
God.
They were his covenant people. They had the rule book, so to speak, for how to live well together. They'd seen miracles, rescued from slavery, fed in the desert, given victory.
All the evidence you could ask for.
You'd think so. But they systematically forgot the agreement. They forgot God's kingship and just defaulted to following their own judgments, their own desires.
And the sermon highlighted something fascinating about the original Hebrew. In that key phrase, everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Ah, yes. The nuance there is crucial.
The word often translated as right is actually closer to good. Everyone did what was good in his own eyes.
Which completely shifts the meaning, doesn't it? It's not about them following their flawed moral compass necessarily.
No, it's more like...
It means they were living by whatever benefited them personally, whatever looked good to them in the moment, whatever satisfied their immediate wants and pleasures.
If it helps me succeed right now, then it must be good.
Exactly. That's a very definition of self-centered desire running rampant. The pastor drew the parallel to Lot, remember? Choosing the best-looking, most fertile land for himself.
Yeah, without really considering the long-term consequences for anyone else, even his own family. Just what looked good to him.
That's the mindset. So here you have God's chosen people, given incredible grace, immense potential for security and abundance.
And they consciously swap out God's standard for personal gain. What looks good, feels good, serves me.
And the result, tragically but predictably, was chaos. Complete societal breakdown, moral implosion, which is exactly what unfolds in those final, horrifying chapters of Judges.
So the principle is clear. When personal thoughts, personal profit become the ultimate standard, disaster isn't far behind.
And the sermon used that story of Micah and his mother as just a jaw-dropping case study of this corrupted spirituality.
Right. It starts with Micah stealing a huge amount of silver, 1,100 pieces from his own mother.
A fortune. And the mother's reaction, she doesn't know who did it yet, so she starts loudly cursing the thief, calling down God's wrath on them.
But then Micah confesses, Mom, that was me.
And instantly her tune changes. The sermon really emphasized this pivot. She's terrified her own curse might now land on her son.
So she flips immediately from curse to blessing. My son, may the Lord bless you.
The whiplash is incredible. It reveals so much about her priorities.
Totally twisted values, right? It wasn't about the sin, the theft, the moral wrong. It was purely about protecting her asset, her son, from the consequences of her own angry words.
Money and then blood ties become the absolute standard, completely divorced from any sense of actual right and wrong according to God's law.
And the pastor connected this ancient story to something quite modern, didn't he?
Yes, that was powerful. He shared an anecdote from a missionary he knew in South America. This missionary encountered a mother whose son was, well, a thief, stole phones, wallets routinely.
Okay.
But instead of being ashamed or trying to correct him, the mother actually praised him. She'd tell people he was smarter and more successful than others who worked hard, honest jobs for barely any money.
Wow, so success just meant getting stuff, regardless of how.
Exactly. If the only measure is material gain, then right and wrong just. They become irrelevant concepts. Stealing becomes smart.
Which brings us back to Micah. His story doesn't end with the returned silver.
No, it gets worse in a way. His mother, perhaps trying to appease God or maybe just solidify her blessing, takes the silver and has an idol made for Micah.
So breaking another core commandment right there.
Right, and then Micah sets up his own little private shrine. And get this, he ordains his own son as his personal priest.
Which was completely against the law, right? Only Levites from a specific lineage could be priests.
Absolutely forbidden. But Micah's constructing his own convenient religion, centered entirely on his personal comfort, his rules, his access to divine favor, or what he thinks is divine favor.
And then the wandering Levite shows up. A real Levite, though apparently one also looking out for himself.
Yes, a Levite looking for employment. And Micah sees this as a fantastic opportunity. Like, oh, perfect. Now my little setup can look legitimate.
So he hires him for what, 12 silver coins a year?
12 silver coins and basic provisions. A bargain, really, for perceived divine backing.
And this leads to Micah's big exclamation, the real kicker that the sermon focused on.
This is the absolute core of his self-centered faith. He declares, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as priest."
It's all about him. Prosperity equals what? Money, safety, success.
All of the above. For Micah, God wasn't the sovereign Lord to be obeyed. God was reduced to a kind of cosmic vending machine, dispensing blessings if you put in the right religious coin in this case, hiring a Levite. It's purely transactional, designed only to serve Micah.
It's fascinating and a bit uncomfortable. How much that echoes some modern complaints about faith, isn't it?
It really is. The sermon touched on this too. People say, I left the church because I was promised wealth or health or success if I just believed hard enough and it didn't happen.
They feel like the deal wasn't honored.
Exactly. But if the faith was centered on me and my expected return on investment from the start, then yeah, disappointment is almost inevitable. True faith, the sermon argued, has to be centered on God and His Word, His standards, not on what I get out of it.
It reminds you of that verse in Proverbs.
Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. That path dictated purely by our own judgment, our own sense of what's good for us.
It leads to destruction, universally.
And sadly, the story in Judges doesn't stop getting darker with Micah's self-serving religion. It spirals even further down.
Yeah, the deep dive into the subsequent events, which the sermon also covered, is it's brutal. It shows the absolute rock-bottom consequences of everyone doing what's good in their own eyes.
We get into truly horrific territory. The rape and murder of the Levite's concubine in Gibeah, just stomach-churning violence.
And the Levite's actions in that.
Terrible. Prioritizing his own safety, he basically throws the woman out to the mob, abandons her.
And then after her death, instead of seeking justice through proper channels, he does something incredibly graphic.
He dismembers her body and sends the parks throughout the tribes of Israel. Not primarily seeking justice for her, it seems, but using this horrific act to rally people to his cause, to avenge his wounded pride and honor. It sparks a brutal civil war.
It's just layer upon layer of self-interest leading to escalating horror.
And notice who consistently suffers throughout Judges? A point the sermon really hammered home.
It's always the vulnerable, isn't it?
Always. The women, the powerless, children, the foreigners. When strength and power are unchecked by any higher moral law, when it's just about what I want or what my tribe wants.
It always flows downhill, crushing the weak.
That seems to be the tragic, inevitable pattern of corrupted human nature when it's given free rein.
And the sermon didn't shy away from drawing parallels to our own time, did it?
Yeah.
Mentioning things like that awful nth room case in Korea.
Right. Where perpetrators justified horrific abuse and exploitation, filming it, sharing it. Why? Some said for fun, others for money. The justifications sound chillingly similar to the self-serving chaos of judges.
Just pure self-interest, devoid of empathy or morality.
It leads to the conclusion that fundamentally, our age isn't necessarily morally superior. The same potential for darkness, driven by the same self-centeredness, is right here with us.
So if we just stop the story there, at the end of Judges, the takeaway is incredibly bleak. You just think, wow, humanity is basically hopeless.
Utterly hopeless if left to its own devices. No reason at all for confidence in ourselves or in any society built purely on self-rule. The end of Judges wants you to feel that despair.
But crucially, that's not where the story actually ends in the Bible.
Exactly. And this is the structural genius, the ray of light the sermon highlighted. Judges concludes in total moral collapse, absolute darkness. And then, immediately following it,
The Book of Ruth.
the book of Ruth, God starts again. Right in the midst of the mess, right after the deepest despair, a story of loyalty, kindness, and redemption begins. Light shines in the darkness.
That transition, placed right there, feels incredibly intentional.
Oh, absolutely. The pastor described it as a recurring pattern. Humanity fails. We make a catastrophic mess. We choose our own way, and it leads to ruin. But within that very mess, God's grace is shown to be persistent. It's always working. Grace holds us up when we fall. It gathers the pieces we scatter. It restores what we break. It leads us back. Even when we seem determined to extinguish hope, God keeps that flame alive.
And it's striking who God uses to carry this grace forward. It's almost never the people you'd expect.
Never the powerful, the prominent, the self-proclaimed righteous ones from the line of Judges. Instead, he uses the seemingly weak, the overlooked, the unlikely.
Like the Hebrew midwives in Exodus who defied Pharaoh.
Yes, or young Samuel, called when the priesthood was corrupt.
And Ruth herself.
Ruth, a Moabite, a foreigner from an enemy nation, a widow, someone with absolutely no status or power in that society. She becomes a key figure in the lineage leading to King David and ultimately to Jesus. She is a channel of immense grace.
So if Judges is the age where everyone did what was right or good in his own eyes,
Then Ruth, coming right after, proclaims the age where, despite that human failure, God continues his work of grace and hope.
that's a powerful comfort.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
And that historical comfort, that pattern, applies directly to us now. Even when we look around at our own societies, American, Korean, wherever, and see moral standards seeming to crumble or chaos brewing.
God's work of restoration, his patience, his grace, it hasn't stopped.
It continues. That's the enduring message of hope derived from that structure.
Okay, this has been a really insightful deep dive, connecting that sermon's points about our default setting with the historical narrative. To quickly recap the core tension.
It's this conflict. Our inherent human impulse is towards self-rule, making ourselves the king. And that path always leads to chaos and breakdown.
But countering that is God's persistent, patient grace, which paradoxically seems to shine most brightly precisely when our self-made darkness is at its deepest. That's the only source of lasting hope and comfort.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really challenging question to mull over this week. It flows directly from the sermon's conclusion. If God is not consciously acknowledged as the king on the throne of your life,
Then who or what is sitting there?
is it really just your own self-interest calling the shots? Is it the pursuit of financial success? Is it the desire for personal comfort and ease above all else? What truly governs your day-to-day choices and reactions? It's worth reflecting on.
Because ultimately, the sermon suggested, the reason life continues, why families endure, communities somehow hold together, nations survive, despite all our failings, isn't down to our own flickering willpower or moral strength.
No, it's founded on something much more steadfast, that enduring grace, patience, and compassion of God.
May you find real overflowing hope and genuine comfort in that truth this week. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.